Okay, so let's just break down leg action. I'm just going to describe how the legs work so we're clear, and then I'll break down the drill a little bit more. Okay, so if I'm standing plane facing you, my pelvis is level, the hip joints are level, knee joints are level. That's assuming that all these levers are the same length, right? And they should be, you know, barring any sort of damage to your growth plate or an accident. So as I'm standing, it's all square. Now if I'm a good golfer, I'm going to set up a little bit like this, that little reverse K position. This hand sits lower on the shaft. Now this side of my pelvis is higher than this side of my pelvis. This knee is higher than this knee. And that's how I set up. Now when I make my backswing, I turn, now it's reversed, right? This knee is lower than this knee. This side of my pelvis is lower than this side of my pelvis. And I'm in a position where I'm loaded. Now as I make my transition down, there's really only one way I can make my transition back to the ball. My center of gravity is actually migrated a little bit to this side. So now what I'm going to do to make my move down is I'm going to move laterally and left and lower to the point where my midline gets into the middle. Now my knees are level again. As my midline and my center of gravity travel towards my lead leg, now this is higher than this. This is higher than this. And because my center of gravity is effectively traveling uphill, it slows my rotation, my lower body down. That blocks my pelvis, and I'm able to rotate my upper body over a blocked pelvis. That releases my golf club. So that's leg action in your golf swing. I have to move laterally and left. Now why do I have to do that? If you take a look at how the club moves from your guy's angle, once I get here, if I move laterally and left, that interval of time in the movement this way allows my hands to actually drop on plane. And then from there, everything else can rotate. But if I get to here, and I do anything else other than move laterally left and lower, if I straighten my leg, if I just shift my weight to this side, if I rotate any of those other segments, the club goes this way first. It goes around rather than down, and that puts me out of position because as soon as the club moves here, now I'm not going to be steep down into the ball, and I don't have enough. I don't perceive that there's enough time to get the club back down to the ball. So there's two parts to your downswing. There's the down part and the around part. And the down has to happen first, but it doesn't happen unless your legs actually support it in that fashion. So what it's going to feel like to you is once I get set in here and I got a little bit of tilt, it's going to feel like if I was going and moving down the wall, as the ball drops, say 3 feet this way, my center of gravity is actually going to drop. I'm going to erase a little piece on the wall here if there are marks on the wall, and like there are. These are really clean racquetball courts, so they must not get used that much. You're going to erase a little swath that's going to be just on a little angle like this. So you're going to be moving left and lower and move through. Now the question is my head going to drop? I'm going to hit it fat, right? Because my head's dropping. It's not really necessarily the case, because if I do this, quite clearly my head's getting lower. I'm losing a little bit of my levels, and I throw it. And the reason why that happens is because the movement of my center of gravity from my right side to my left side is so slow. It has time to drop. In my golf swing, because it happens faster than that, there isn't a perception that it drops. Just because the rotation this way and the transfer of the center of gravity happens so quickly, my head's not going to drop. But I have to have that sense of dropping, because if I don't have this grooved in, this is going to be the pattern. And that's the pattern that most people have. It's counterintuitive for people to get to here and actually move down. But if you think it through, like if you think about a race car, why do race cars have Yeah, it's downforce. The faster it goes, the faster I want to go, I've got to make sure that there's force keeping the car on the ground. The same type of theory that you're thinking of. Now it's slightly different, but it's not a perfect analogy. But the harder I want to hit it, I have to make sure that I actually get down, or else that's going to be my tendency. Okay? and we'll get into it, but you have to actually go down to contain that high center of gravity lateral drift, okay? And that's what this squat, like that Sneed squat, right? That's a hallmark of good players. Like, how do you actually create that? You actually create this by knowing how to use your legs properly, okay? So when I drop the ball, should be this is what happens. If I'm standing here in front of you guys and I turn, look at what's happening. My knees look like they're doing something independent of each other, but the angle across them stays the same. The angle across my thighs stays the same. The angle across my hips stays the same, and my shoulders stay the same when I make this little transfer. That's what allows this to happen. I get it down, and then I can rotate everything. If I was to do this and my knees opened up, and that's why you're having trouble hitting your knee right now on the bounce, is because you're both programmed to have your hips open up quickly, right? It looks a lot better on you. You're actually able to do that bounce.
So do the long drill and don't think about it in your swing.
Well, yeah, that's the thing is, the idea is, it's more about creating movement. Well, here's the thing is, you can think about your golf swing all you want when you're doing these drills. But I don't want you to be thinking about the drills when you're making a golf swing. I want you to just hit golf balls. That's a little bit hard for some people to get their head around. But it's not that difficult, right? If you're on a golf course, you should be thinking more about strategy, what kind of curve you want to play, and we'll get into that on the range, how it'll be a lot easier to get out of your head than you think it is.